What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Seoulweaver Webcast. I don't know what I'm calling this. I'm your host, Will Brooks, and as always, I am coming to you from right smack dab in the middle of Seoul with a brand new Prepisode of the show. Still in Prepisode mode here, a little longer than I had anticipated, but still getting things together, still trying to change things up and get a little more, get things to work the way I actually want them to work here on the show. One thing I was trying to do earlier today, see, I still mess with this. That's why I'm in Prepisode mode. One thing I was trying to do today is get my laptop to feed into my desktop, and that way you guys don't see me looking off to the side all the time. I mean, I would look down, but I don't know, that this transition back and forth would be probably better than the transition that I was making before. But yeah, but I digress. I don't know, not even I digress. It's a work in progress, and it will all get there soon enough. I'm sure. I mean, it's not like you guys really missing out because I'm doing the show every week anyway. Speaking of which, my apologies for last week. I know I cut the show really, really short, which probably wasn't a bad thing, to be honest. They should probably all be that length. But again, the goal and the dream is to actually do one show once a week and then create other pieces of content based off of what I cover in that show, other videos, clips, and things like that to get people to watch it. Much like the other internet shows do out there. They actually film their show live and then go on and chop those up and then share like little clips. And I want to do something like that. But I was talking to a buddy of mine, Josh. Josh, if you're out there, appreciate the input and the feedback and the idea. Not even feedback from the show because you don't be watching it because it's too long. But I want to we were talking about possibly doing different days of the show. He recommended that idea. I do want to go with it, but when? Like what days? So I don't know. I'll be revisiting things and checking things out, and maybe we'll be having like one shorter or two shorter versions of the show. And maybe we'll do the podcast. I'll do the podcast on Tuesdays, and then I'll film the actual current event show on Wednesdays or Thursdays. And then I don't know, maybe we can split things up like that and make the next thing that I'm gonna say a little more relevant. And that's like, I hope you guys had a good weekend. It's Thursday, weekend's about to come up again. But did I have a great weekend? What did I get into this weekend? I don't remember. Did we watch? Oh, we just chilled at the house for the most part. I did get into something last weekend that was a little fun, and I kind of wanted to share with you guys. Actually, let me go ahead and pull that up right now while I talk. But the weekend before, I actually mentioned that the wife and my son and I went to a meetup, and we kind of hung out there, and something cool happened while we were there. And I wanted to share that with you guys. We'll probably do that in the second half of the show, now that I think about it, because I don't know. Or maybe we'll do it as a palate cleanser after everything that happened. So, oh god, there's so much to talk about. So since I accidentally double booked last week's show, there was a topic that I wanted to talk about for the podcast that I didn't have time to. And I kind of wanted to plan it out and talk it through. So it was a good thing that I didn't talk about it in the last episode. But of course, we all know who I am, right? Do you think I took that extra time to go back and say, okay, well, let me go ahead and plan that show out plan out that one thing that I want to talk about? I didn't do it and plan it out. It's just chalk it up as a loss. So I'm going to talk about that topic and discuss that with you guys. And I'm going to kind of like shoot it from the hip, which means it's going to be, in some cases, all over the place. Bear with me. So this is going to take me a while to get actually. The video I was going to show you is going to take a little bit to get ready, so we'll come back to that in this second portion of the show when we get into social media and everything else. So the topic I did want to talk to you guys about last week was I guess it starts with a story. So last weekend, or the weekend right before Thanksgiving, we hung out with another mixed couple. Of course, you know, if you don't know, my wife is Korean. We are a mixed couple, internationally, interracially. And we go through some struggles, or we go through some things that, you know, you wouldn't go through if you weren't mixed, or if you weren't mixed in international and interracial mixtures of intercultural mixtures and things like that. When you hang out with other couples, that are in the same situation that we are in, we actually find out that, I mean, our struggles and our, our disagreements and things like that, or just our lives aren't that vastly different. And this actually happened while we were hanging out with some friends of ours last week. And it ended in a debate, very spirited debate. I don't want to say argument, because we were all kind of, it wasn't like, we've all been married for a long time. It wasn't like this, it wasn't a fight, but it was a back and forth that got as close to a fight as you can get without being an actual fight, like not without being an actual argument. And the topic was language in our types of families. And it made me really, I was really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it was really interesting. Like, it was intriguing to hear, because it was basically the women against the men. And the women were making a claim that there is always the case, often the case in groups, in, marriages like this, that one group or one party learns the other party's language. If you both don't start off speaking the same language and you meet and you kind of like develop your language in there, in a lot of cases, one group, the women, end up speaking English, and the men don't end up speaking Korean. Now, of course, that's not the case all the time. It's not the case, in 100% of these instances. But to be completely honest, in my circles, where the people that I know that are married to Koreans, the men get to the point where they understand a lot of Korean, but they don't really speak it. And then when you do see somebody who speaks Korean, you're kind of impressed, because it's like, man, he really speaks Korean. And there's a lot of people like that. You meet a lot of people that speak Korean out there. One of the guys in my apartment complex, his Korean is impressive, but mine isn't, and neither is my friends who was having this conversation. And the wives were kind of giving us a little bit of feedback on why, and really just asking, like, why don't you guys learn Korean? You've been here in Korea for a long time. Now, that's actually the kicker, because we felt like our backs were against the wall and got a little defensive, because we've been here in Korea for a long time, but for one, it's not just us that doesn't learn Korean. Usually it's like a person. All these reasonings started coming out about why we don't learn Korean, or why we haven't learned Korean in all this time here now. And with me, I felt it even a little bit worse, because I've been here longer, man. Like, I've been here since I was 19. That's a long time. Why? Even I wonder, like, at times, I get mad at that's one of my biggest pet peeves about being here this long, is that I don't speak fluent Korean. And so we were trying to not really explain why we don't, not because I do want to learn Korean, but why it's harder to learn and it's easier for them to learn English. And by that standard, and then it got into whether English is the easier language, or whether we really try to learn Korean, or whether we really appreciate that they learn English, or whether we appreciate what they go through and how different aspects of that. It got crazy. Like, it got more and more complicated as the conversation went on. We went back and forth for like an hour trying to figure out why, maybe 45 minutes, trying to explain, one side trying to explain to the other side how they feel and why they feel that way, and wondering and trying to explain, like, trying to answer the question, why? And these days it gets harder and harder to explain away, because now we're running into more and more people who speak fluent Korean, more and more foreigners who speak fluent Korean, more and more people who, I don't know, who just, I think that's the big deal, is that we run into a lot of people that speak Korean now. And another interesting thing is the role, or the emphasis that the different methods of communicating with each other, or the different cultures, takes on the person who's learned English. So let me start right there, because I might forget that. Everything else I'll kind of remember. My wife expressed a lot of anxiety that she experiences at social gatherings, because not only does she have to communicate in English, she has to communicate in a way that she doesn't normally communicate, a way that she says isn't common amongst Koreans. And so I was like, what do you mean? Like, what's that mean? It's like, she's like, you guys are American. You like talk to everybody. Like, if you go to a barbecue, there's so many times where you talk to people and I have to ask you, like, do you know that guy? Like, no, I don't know him. We just kind of ran into each other and we just started talking. We just found out what we have in common and we kind of clicked. And that makes her not just uncomfortable, but it kind of creates a situation where she has to be out of her element, and it's unnatural for her to like randomly talk to people, especially in English. And I'm a little concerned about that. Somebody said, is your internet really slow? I don't think it is. Am I breaking up, guys? Somebody let me know in the chat. It says my connection is really good. I'm not sure what's going on here. But in any case, you guys let me know if I don't start coming through clearly. I don't see any lag on my end. But yeah, in any case, I never considered how not only that she has to communicate in English, but that she has to communicate in English to people that she doesn't know, that she's not comfortable around, and to people that she would never even speak to if she was in the same or equivalent position in Korea or in a Korean setting. And that was kind of a big eye opener for me, because I never even considered that was a factor. Now, with that out of the way, I did consider the fact that we try to explain the fact that it's a little easier for them to learn English, even though English isn't the easier language, because I think Korean is a lot more easier to learn than Korean. Excuse me. I think Korean is a lot more easy to learn than English, because English is a complicated language and Korean is pretty straightforward. But the setting in which we are in, specifically us, our specific brand of expat, you heard me go into how I don't think I'm a real expat last time I was in maybe 2 weeks ago. I talked about how I'm not like a real expat like some of these guys who just picked up their stuff, moved over here, set up shop like off somewhere in Korea, and then they work at a Korean company. I work at a U.S. company, or I work for a U.S. organization, and everybody there speaks English. I'm not like immersed in the language. I don't have that option for immersion. When I did have that option was when I taught English out in Ilsan for a short time, and my Korean was coming along pretty well. But that was for a very short amount of time. I think it was 8 months. Since then, wherever I've worked, there have been English speakers there, and that doesn't stop you from learning Korean, or it didn't stop me from learning Korean. And I want to talk about me specifically, because even though there are other people in similar situations like me, and I think that's their reason, I don't want to speak for them, but I do think that people of that ilk kind of run into this issue where even if you want to learn, it's hard to learn because you're not speaking it every day. And to come home and speak it every day, like at home with my wife, would be to delay her advancement or her progression in English. So what that does is it puts me in a situation where I have to be super proactive to learn Korean. And when it comes to that, I'm just not, man. I want it, but putting in the work, I know what has to happen, but it's like people say, man, you know what you got to do to get a six pack. You know what you got to do to lose weight, but we're not always doing it, right? Like it's not happening. So I know what needs to happen. I know I need to study. I know I need to, I know what my problem is. My vocabulary is low. I know if I want to increase my vocabulary, I should read things in Korean. I should listen to podcasts, or listen to those like the Talk to Me in Korean podcasts where they actually talk about it, and then active listening and writing it down and things like that. When I make that decision to do it, I'm confident in my ability to learn the language and grow and progress in the language. But when, right? I feel as though I don't have the time. I do. Another argument that came up, or another point that came up, was like, you do have the time. You just spend it doing like one of your hobbies, like playing video games and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, man, I wish my hobby was learning Korean, because I'd be really good at it, man. I'd be better than I am at Destiny or whatever. In any case, there were a lot of different factors that came out that we never considered. And we found ourselves kind of trying to argue each other's points, or trying to understand each other's points while still making our own. Those were two of them. Another point that we made, or that I made, was that, if I wanted to learn Korean, another topic that came up was that wives can't teach husbands languages and vice versa. And I don't know why that is. And I don't know, man. I would think that my wife, I did in a way teach my wife English, because when I listen to her talk to other people, sometimes she talks like me. And when she listens to people who talk like me, she can really understand them well. Is that when they come from different places, where they're not from California, they're from Tennessee or Florida, or they have a different dialect. That's when she can't really understand what they're saying. So in a way, it seems like she learned English from me. But teaching languages, I guess it all depends on personality. But in both of our cases, we were saying the wives can't teach us the language because the conversation gets a little off the rails. Hey, speaking of wife, guys, one quick second, because mine is texting me, asking me about, ask me about plans for the weekend. Busy. In any case, one of the concerns, what was I talking about? I should have never done that. I should have answered the text. One of the concerns was wives can't teach husbands language just because emotions get involved and frustrations gets easily frustrated with each other. It's the same as me trying to teach my wife how to drive. I couldn't teach her. It's just that we're too close to each other. We're too comfortable with each other, and the way we react is too real to one another. Versus when you get somebody who's you're either paying to teach you, or you got an arrangement with where you meet X amount of times a week and you just have back and forth talks, or like some of the language exchanges that we see where you're just talking with your friends and talking back and forth and trying to learn a language. It's just that you don't have that strong relationship, that exposure overload when you're trying to teach somebody something and they just don't get it, or you feel as though they don't get it in any case. And then it starts to bleed over in other areas of your life. It starts to talk about cooking and things that don't even have anything to do with what you're doing. So that was kind of out of the question. And with myself and my wife particularly, I actually wanted to go to a Korean as a second language course. She seemed pretty reluctant or pretty against that idea up until recent years or up until recent months. But I don't even know why she was against it. She was like, I can teach you Korean. If you're going to spend money, I can teach you Korean. That can't happen. And she was like, well, you can go learn Korean the same way your son, your 7-year-old, learned it. Read the books he reads, expand your vocabulary, then start reading ever more difficult books. And I was like, yeah, but I don't really read. So that's not something that I do. Like if I'm going to a class, I'll be at the course. I'll be in class. I'll have a grade that I'm trying to get. I'll have projects that I have to do for my grade, or otherwise I wasted my money. And so trying to talk that didn't really work out all that well. So she didn't even want me to go to the class. She probably has her reason. She's like, why you want to go learn Korean outside now? What you going to use it to do? Nothing. Like, talk to your mom. My mother-in-law lives in my house. And it's amazing how we communicate, because neither of us speaks each other's language. But I speak just enough Korean to kind of understand what she's saying. And then as I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, I want to learn a bit more Korean, I'll even look up the word she's saying and like figure out, or the word I want to tell her, and figure it out and kind of explain it to her. And we can kind of still limp along that way. But here along comes the son. He's 7 years old. He can speak both languages. We just get him to translate for us all the time. Same deal, man. It's just all these different conveniences that are great stop me from really getting out and learning. If I had a choice, if it was up to me, I would go out and just set up shop somewhere in Korea and not talk to any Americans. I would not talk to any foreigners. I would just immerse myself in Korean and in a Korean culture, in a Korean location. And and what's up, Josh? And then I would just expand my Korean, but that's not the case. That's not what's happening. And so I completely understand where the wives were coming from, and it got even more intricate as we got further along into the conversation, because we did talk for a long time. So one thing they did bring up is that when women come to Korea and they marry Korean men, they learn Korean. So with you guys, why did you come to Korea, marry Korean women, and not learn Korean? And my big deal, man, or my big argument in that, my defense is, who in the hell knew I would be here this long? It was like actually impossible for me to stay here as long as I did for the first time, the first branch of time that I was here. I came over in 2001, stayed here, active duty, NAF, taught English, GS, or government employee, back and forth, invited contractor for a long strand of time for 10 years. That was unexpected. I came over here with the expectation of staying here for a year and going to Hawaii like after a year. That was the plan. So for her to say like, oh, you've been here for a long time, you should learn. And I get it, because she made the argument of, well, what were you thinking at 4 years? What were you thinking at 6 years, 7 years, 8 years? You didn't think at any of those points in time to just learn Korean? Let me be completely honest. I didn't, because my level of Korean in 2007, 6, 7, 8, like it was more than anybody that I would really encounter like on the street. It wasn't until like 2012, 13, 14 that I started running into people like everywhere that spoke fluent Korean. And I was just like, man, I should. And that made me realize like I got to step up my game. But yeah, man, it didn't dawn on me. Every year it seemed like 2 years from now we'll be in the US. And at that point, I don't know when we're going to come back. So after that 10 years, we went back to the States went to the States for the first time for my wife, stayed there for a year and a half, and then came right back. Also unexpected. So I didn't think at all that it just didn't dawn on me that we would be back that soon, be here for another 7 years. And you would think even as when I landed that time, the intention was to learn Korean, but then we had to learn so many different things at work and things like that. All excuses is what it really comes down to. I don't have that personality. I didn't have that curiosity or that desire. It wasn't important enough to me to learn it, because if it was, I would have. And that's what the end of the argument basically was. So, and then I also argued that women that come over and marry Korean men, they're kind of going to stay where the breadwinner is. And that's where it got into like somewhat into sexism, because actually this didn't happen with our friends in the conversation. It actually happened between me and the wife, because I was telling her like, usually those people learn Korean because they're going to stay where, they can do the best for their family, where they can provide the most for their family. So the men are going to still work here in Korea and the women are going to stay here with them. So of course they're going to learn the language. I would do that too. So I told my wife, call my bluff on it, get a job, go out there, and don't even maintain the same lifestyle we have now. Like drop it down a little bit, like where we got a smaller place and less spending money and things like that. And I'm down. I'm not married to the idea of going back to the States. I'm married to you. And so if you want to stay here, I'll stay here. I've been here since I was a kid. I love it here. I don't want to go, but since we are going to leave, it's getting to be about the time where we kind of head out or figure things out or kind of plan our next jump to that next branch. But in the end, it made me realize something that I hadn't realized for a long time, that there are a lot more facets to the language difference, or the difference in who learns the language, than what I thought. I thought it was a lot more simple and straightforward than that. I thought it was just, hey, we're going to be here for temporarily, so you have to learn English because you got to be able to speak English when we go to the States. If it was the other way around, I'd learn Korean because I need to learn Korean when I live here. In any case, it was an interesting argument. Debate. Interesting debate, interesting conversation. But it made me realize a lot more. I really have to show my wife my appreciation for her learning the language a lot more. And I will continue to do that. Anybody else that's in the same position, I highly recommend you do the same. And I need to put more focus on learning Korean. Enough said. So that was just the conversation the issue that I wanted to share with you. Sorry, it was a little rambly. I was gonna write all that down and put it in like notes. I'm sure I probably forgot a couple of different things that we talked about that were, just those social situations and social settings and things like that were a lot different. And we talked about them briefly, but I basically covered that. In any case, I am going to be right back with the current events segment of the show. Gonna take a quick break, grab some water, because despite it being cooler outside and everywhere else, it is still hot as Hades under these lights. That's just kind of the case. I'll be right back with the second half of the show. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Um, so I guess we can jump right into the current events show or the current events segment, because we all know what it's about. It's about North Korea launching this missile. Um, it's, I keep saying I don't want to talk about it anymore. That I'm not even gonna say that anymore, because it's kind of it's on everybody. I don't know if it's on everybody's mind. I'm curious how you guys feel about the whole thing with North Korea and Pyongyang. Like, it's like in the U.S., Trump, Kim Jong Un, Moon Jae-in, Abe, or I don't know how to say his first name, President Abe in Japan. I wonder what you guys think about all these guys, because it's while I'm not really pumped to talk about it anymore, I am concerned. And the level of concern is, it's, I don't know. I think I'm more concerned than the average expat here in Korea. But at the same time, I'm not. I'm getting kind of over it, man. Like, well, that's the thing. I've got mixed feelings about it. For one, I think it's crazy. I think I've said this over and over again. I think people who constantly say nothing's gonna happen, and ignore the fact that things are this now, not as they've been in, I mean, years. It's never been at this level, and I don't think people really understand that. I think they're kind of glossing over that real quickly. Like, we've never had, like, I think you'll see from later on another couple of stories in here that if we're lucky, Moon Jae-in is like from the party that is not so aggressive to North Korea, because I think if President Park's whatever, I don't know, I forgot the name of their party, but if the Conservative Party in Korea was still here, was still in power, like if President Park hadn't been impeached and jailed, no telling what the setting would be. I'm curious what the situation on the peninsula would be then. Maybe we'll get a quick look at it. But yeah, North Korea launched another missile, bigger, badder, heavier, stronger than ever before. The link to the article will be in the description, but basically it's their biggest missile yet. It's the Hwasong 15, their biggest missile yet. Looks like it's had some changes in its engine design. Like, this is a new missile. This is something new that they didn't have before, and it's on the same level as like other people's shit, man. I don't know how to say it. Like, it's not. There was a time when I can remember when North Korea would launch missiles and they would just blow up before they really got off the ground. I'm sorry, let me move over. They would just blow up, like, and then you'd watch that happen. You could say, like, "Hey, dude, you just wasted your money. Stop spending money on that and spend money on something for your economy rather than your military." And I guess those were the more calm days of Kim Il Sung or Kim Jong Il. Now we're faced with some real concerns about North Korea actually hitting the United States with a nuclear. I mean, this from what the analysts say about this, they could hit like New York and Washington D.C. with this missile, and it's capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. So this is what the U.S. promised they wouldn't allow to happen. There's still some debate over whether they had like a real warhead on it or not, or a warhead that actually weighs as much as a nuclear warhead would weigh. But I think all that is semantics at this point. I think the fear in America is getting real, and the realer that we've seen it happen before. The public or the citizenry at large was convinced that we needed to go into Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. Watching it happen, then I don't see what would be the real big difference maker here on the Korean Peninsula. I guess the big hopefully the big difference maker is the fact that we are allies with South Korea, and South Korea does still consider North Korea their brethren. So it's a civil war that formed two countries, not so much two different people who never really got along. And I don't know what else to think about this. I don't even know what else to think. I don't even know what else to say. about this launch. It's just, I mean, what's it? Nikki Haley said it brings us closer to war. That's comforting. Donald Trump responded. In fact, we're gonna play his response. I'm not gonna talk about it. We're gonna play Donald Trump's response, and actually we'll play a few responses to show you guys what people said about what were the reactions to North Korea launching these missiles. Will we? Because I had them. There we go. Not even happy to see what I got. So Trump obviously reduced this. I hate to laugh at this guy, man, but it's kind of funny that he will constantly like reduce people to just like silly names or just like the silly insults. It's just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man. Where are we living right now? Let me get this ready for you guys. I'm sorry. One of these days I'll link up with somebody and we'll have somebody else like doing this while I introduce stuff instead of me just spouting and then playing it or trying to arrange it while I talk, because although I can walk and chew gum at the same time, this is a little slightly more complicated than chewing gum. Yeah, this is good enough.
The tax cut will mean more companies moving to America, staying in America, and hiring American workers right here. So that's so important, right? Small business groups across our nation,
What the hell?
retailers, restaurants, manufacturers,
Okay,
grocers, contractors, support this plan.
I'm not sure what happened there. What? I had it like right on. That's peculiar. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on. I had it on the thing. Slightly embarrassing. It's okay. It's only live. This would have been so much better if I had it on my laptop to just jump up and just do what I was doing. And I mean, but you can kind of guess what Trump called Kim Jong-un. He called him, I don't know, he didn't call him Rocket Man this time. He's called something else. Must have called him I think he didn't call him sick. He called him something a little more juvenile than normal. Okay, here we go. Work. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends.
How the design can change.
Now I'm showing commercials.
CD.
Still gotta wait in a commercial. I'm sorry, guys. Should have had this more. I had it set up perfect, and then I watched the whole thing and said, "Oh man, I didn't even watch it." Oh, I hit refresh. My bad. I did because I had to pull up. I had to move the camera angles, or I had to move the actual tabs. So that's what we're waiting on. In any case, here we go. For real this time.
Tax cut will mean more.
Forget it, man. That burns me up. I'm not even sure what's happening. I'm not sure why it's not working. Yet another reason we're in Prepisode mode. Oh, maybe I never had it. It's actually I might have messed up there. Well, I did mess up there. Any case, Trump calls I think he calls Kim Jong-un like what is it? Something crazy. In any case, Trump says we'll handle North Korea. We will handle North Korea. And it looks like he's doing a little less kind of outsourcing to China to kind of shake North Korea up. Although they're still pushing for Chinese Chinese actual sanctions. So here, I mean, it's kind of a catch-22. They only have. I'm a little pissed because I wanted to see that video because I actually didn't watch it because I wanted to respond to it like while we're here. But the U.S. is still pressing China to like cut off North Korea's oil supply, and that's kind of like a big deal because China's the only, between China and Russia, I think they're the only countries that still trade oil with North Korea, and they're trying to kind of cut off North Korea's supply chain so they can just, I don't know, kind of wither them out or kind of wither them into submission. And I think that's really what it is here. It's like, I don't think North Korea would actually launch a missile at the U.S. I'm not 100% sure about that. Again, I got to get with some analysts and things like that who know, well, nobody really knows Kim Jong-un because he's so young and he's so new. But the regime is historically concerned with self-preservation. And launching a nuclear missile at the United States does not line up with the concept of self-preservation, because you couldn't take the whole country out with one single nuke. So you would have hell to pay once that nuke detonated. If best case scenario in your situation, North Korea, once that nuke detonated in the United States, nobody would stop them from just bombing the hell out of North Korea. And I mean, they could. I mean, it's almost like they would be even more. I mean, they'd be even more empowered to further attack. The attacks they'd be crazy. So people are arguing that North Korea would never even launch a nuclear missile at the United States. I don't think that matters to the United States. Even the choice, the option, the possibility, even if it's 0.002% that North Korea could launch a missile at the United States and detonate a nuke on U.S. soil, is enough to send everybody into a panic. And rightfully so. Like, who wants to be nuked? But this kind of does get around. Like, I've been thinking about this for a while. This is like the guy, like two people living on the street, two neighbors living on the street. One doesn't want the other one to have a gun because he's unstable, although he's the only one who's never used a gun, ever used a gun before. I mean, you see little cartoons of, like political cartoons of Trump with, standing, or I guess it's Uncle Sam actually, standing on like a super huge pile of nuclear missiles and pointing to Kim Jong-un with one little rocket saying "madman," and it is something to think about. I mean, this America wants to remain at the top, like where only us and our allies have this super destructive capability. And who can blame them, really? I mean, who could blame us? That's kind of the way. I mean, you want, since it means so many people dying, you don't want it to be in the hands of somebody who could use it against you. We already have that happen a lot with our crazy U.S. foreign policy. So we end up, working with somebody in the 90s, and we end up fighting those same people in 2005. I don't know where the situation goes from here, but more sanctions would just make North Korea more desperate. And I think somebody smarter than myself, somebody smarter than President Trump, needs to kind of figure out a way to really get them to come to the table. Like, I don't understand what Kim Jong-un is. Okay, I think we're talking about planning a little bit here in the next one. Oh no, that's another video. Another video. Might not turn out well either. But it's like this. There was this another article out there where they're talking about how North Korea really just wants to be. They want to be known. They don't want to be seen as this weak country where as soon as you cut off their supply, they'll wither and die. And actually going this route is a bit of a mistake, I think, in a lot of different ways of trying to like actually do that and making it seem like, well, if we can get them to kind of choke, we know what would happen. That would only affect the people. That would only make supplies less available to the people who don't even matter, who aren't even a threat to us. I think there was an argument that was made by the highest ranked North Korea defector a couple of weeks back, where he said it has to be information warfare. You have to get information to the population in North Korea, and let them know that their leadership is telling them lies. And once they realize that, and once they know that, they'll figure that out, I guess, or they'll take matters into their own hands and topple the regime, or at least they won't be so resistant to others coming in and toppling the regime. So yeah, it's just chaos, man. I really hope we're not looking at. I really don't think a conflict on the Korean Peninsula would be anything nice to look at. And this is an example of how South Korea reacts to North Korea. So you always hear on firsthand how President Trump or General Mattis and Nikki Haley at the UN react to Kim Jong-un's aggression. Well, one thing you never hear is how South Korea reacts to North Korea. And so this is what happened when they launched these missiles. This missile this time, Seoul launches live fire drills after North Korea's missile test. And so what happened was all the branches of military, Air Force, Navy, and was it Marines? They all launched, Air Force, Navy, and Army all launched missiles or launched conventional artillery at the same target in response to this. I think it was minutes later after the North Korean launch. You didn't hear about it because they're not launching nukes, but they did respond in force and with some kind of force, not deadly force. They didn't attack anybody, but they did kind of have this show of or what is it? Not just arrangement, or not just cohesion amongst their actual military or their defenses here, but they did show a quick reaction and a willingness to do so, to fire in the direction, I guess, of the border. And it's, at the same time, you kind of show your hand and show what you would do, and you show your own capabilities. And then North Korea seems to be, since they are looking outward and watching what everybody does and fine-tuning their own nuclear missile or intercontinental ballistic missile design, they're probably going to look at what South Korea did and try to plan around that reaction. Thank you. Show of force, Shinar. Appreciate that. So yeah, they had their little show of force, even though it was it wasn't. But I don't know. I think it's pretty impressive to have everybody hit the same target at once. It might be able to do something. Might be able to kind of scare North Korea off. I'm not terribly sure. However, that was not deemed as all that impressive to the opposition leadership here in Korea. So if you're unaware, Moon Jae-in is from like the progressive, democratic, liberal party here in Korea. And the opposition is the Conservative Party, obviously. They are more tough on North Korea. The Liberal Party is trying to, the Progressive Party is trying to like ease things on. They're more of the sunshine policy guys who you can get a guy to take his jacket off by shining the sun on him, as opposed to blowing the wind on him. That's what sunshine policy is, like a very simple outbreak or a simple breakdown of the sunshine policy. However, there was a lot of talk from the opposition, the Conservative Party, about how Moon Jae-in is reacting and the things that he's taken off the table. And this is why I said if Park Chung-hee was still in power and if her party was still in power, who knows what the dynamic would be with conservatives in Korea, conservatives in the U.S., and North Korea acting as they would act. How would it be? It could be better, it could be worse. I mean, who knows if North Korea would be this bold if they had the conservatives in power, because he knows how that they are tough on North Korea. But at the same time, the things that he was recommending were pretty somewhat extreme, So he said one of the things he was in favor of is sharing control of U.S. nuclear arms. And this is like an arrangement that the U.S. has with other Western countries, like other Western nations, like Italy, Belgium, and Germany. Like they have this arrangement where there's a shared set of nuclear arms that they have access to. And so the Conservative Party here, they're looking at a non-nuclear peninsula, Korean peninsula, in a rearview mirror. They don't mind they wouldn't be against using nukes in North Korea. And yet another recommendation he had was to actually he's open to the actual preemptive strikes that you've heard the U.S. talk about to deter North Korea, or to have these preemptive strikes on North Korea, which is pretty extreme, man. Because not just because, I mean, it may, I don't know, I haven't really thought it through. I don't really know enough to know if that's needed right now. But we all know how China reacted to THAAD, like the actual high terminals, just the defenses, the defense missile systems in Korea that the U.S. deployed. We all know how they reacted to that. How would they react to nukes on peninsula in South Korea and a preemptive strike against North Korea? In fact, China's already said that if the U.S. preemptively strikes North Korea, they will get involved in a conflict. And if North Korea preemptively strikes South Korea or the U.S., they won't get involved. So that's pretty extreme. I don't know. It's all looking a little crazy, man. So even though Moon Jae-in kind of told the military within minutes to like strike back or to display a show of force, thanks again, to show people to show North Korea that they would respond, that they would be ready in the event that North Korea came down here or showed some aggression toward the South, they still want him to do more. And they want him to put things back on the table that Moon Jae-in basically has taken off, because he's taken off preemptive strikes and nukes on the peninsula. Pretty crazy, man. A whole bunch of news that got nothing good. No good news there, I don't think. We had a little bit with the 3 no's or the 5 no's. No regime change. No escalated unification of the two Koreas. And we came right back with this, man. After 75 days of North Korea not launching anything. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it was just saying, Shinar saying in the chat that this is the first truly democratic president. Yeah, I think that's an accurate statement. So, all right, so that's all. I'm gonna go ahead and jump off of the news for now, and I'm gonna head into social media stuff. I'm gonna crack a beer, sit back, chill, talk with you guys in chat, and then jump on to stuff that I saw on social media. I wish I had got, if you guys want to throw something up and we could talk about it. Actually, I don't think you can't link to social media in live chat on YouTube. So that might be something we have to do through Discord a little bit later once we get that set up, once we get out of Prepisode mode. I'll be right back, you guys. Stay tuned. Hope you guys stay with me. The next segment is way more back and forth between, like, I'm just going to be watching chat basically as I go over stuff over social media. See you in a few. Your boy is back. Didn't realize how reckless I had pushed this away. My setup needs a little work up here. But yeah, man, we're gonna chill for a minute, go through some of the social media stuff I saw today. Or, well, this week, but I didn't do a good job saving. Josh is telling me to get some Seoul Mech. That is soju and mekju beer. It's like the Korean rice alcohol that is like super strong and 1,200 won a pop. That'll get you tore up. But you don't want to drink it by itself, so you mix it with beer sometimes. And Coke. Like the thing is like soju, beer, and Coke now. Have y'all heard of that? That's pretty. I hear that. That's like the Seoul Mech now. That's the recipe that you want to like mix together. Haven't tried that yet. Gonna get on that probably get on that this weekend since we're talking about it. But I will not be drinking Seoul Mech while I am live on television. That is something more for a record and edit out the madness a little bit later. I must have left myself open for something because he said, "Don't leave yourself. What could possibly go wrong?" Yeah. Oh my God. Why are we bringing up Matt Lauer in the chat? That is it's some pretty depressing news. I actually went through a sharp class today, sexual harassment and assault prevention class today, and they did not mention any of the actual sexual assault, they didn't mention any of the sexual assault in the news while they were telling soldiers not to sexually assault themselves or sexually assault each other. It was pretty crazy. Pretty sad news. I don't even want to get into. I don't want to really get into that. There have been some. There actually I saw an article that I didn't share because I just didn't want to talk about it. But there was an article about Harvey Weinstein being a topic here in Korea. So it's made its way over here. The chaebols and everybody, they're like revamping their sexual harassment policies and stuff like that. Sexual harassment, man, it's becoming a major focus. Little late, but I guess better late than never. I'm gonna date myself here. The Sister Act movie, I don't know if anybody even knows what Sister Act is. I'm sure a lot of people know what it is, but if you're younger, you didn't watch Sister Act or Sister Act 2, because you probably never heard of it. I remember watching it on VHS. That act, they actually went ahead and put together an actual musical of Sister Act, and it's similar to the story, but it's in a different setting. It sounds like it's in a setting. It's set in the 70s, and I don't think Sister Act was in present time back then, in the 90s. And they're actually coming out with yeah. Still, Lauryn Hill, yeah, man. Lauryn Hill and oh God, that's gonna take me back to everything early 90s, mid 90s time frame. But yeah, she's in Sister Act 2, ain't she? She ain't in the first one. I'm thinking about the first one. But yeah, Sister Act live in Korea. Musicals are really, really good. Well, actually, I was gonna say musicals are really, really good. They put on pretty well in Korea. I actually went and watched Saturday Night Fever in Korean, and I went and watched Once in Korean. Both musicals were really well put together. Koreans had the vocals, the choreography was great, and it was put together pretty nice. That's not what you're gonna get with this. This is actually it's actually a U.S. troupe putting it on, or a U.S. company, U.S. entity putting it on with actual U.S. singers, I think. And they're coming here. They're on a tour through Asia, and Korea is their last stop. I think they'll be here till the 25th or the 21st of January, if I remember correctly. But this is something I would go see live if I get the time, because that's actually going to be pretty fun. I don't think Whoopi Goldberg is going to be in this one though. Although that would be a sight to see. I don't know, was she really singing in that first one? How long ago was that movie? Do you guys know? That's gotta be, is that 20 years ago now? More than 20 years ago? Never mind. Don't look it up. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. So here's something that's pretty interesting, and it's happening in an area that's pretty interesting to me as well. Mapogu, I don't know if you know of Western Seoul, but Mapogu is like Western Seoul. I don't even know if I'm doing that right, north, south, east, west. Yeah, Western Seoul is it's developing a lot more. That's where Hongdae is, and things are kind of spreading out from Hongdae. It used to be a lot of just nothing out there, because Seoul wasn't so vastly huge as it has been, as it has become over the years. But one of the things that was out there was like this really old oil depot. And so the Mapogu Oil Depot is being reborn as a cultural center, a cultural complex here in Seoul. And it's pretty, I like it when they go and take something that was like ugly and gross and like, I don't know, polluting the ground or polluting the environment or whatever it was doing. And they redevelop it and try to make it into something nice. And that's what they've kind of tried to do. So this is an oil tanker that was created or built in the 70s during the oil crisis here in Korea. There's an oil shortage or something like that. I don't really know. And they went ahead and it's been decade, or it's been vacant for like months, or excuse me, years. Like it's been out of commission since 2000, I think. And Sister Act was from 1992. That's crazy. So, but this has been out of order since 2000. It's 8 years after Sister Act was made, and they were trying to revamp it and figure out what to do with it. And I think at this stage in the game, especially with Moon Jae-in actually they probably did it before him, but him being the progressive president, the progressive leader that he is, he's not going to be on board with like reopening an oil depot, because I think they like added another oil bin like in 2009. So they've been trying to like revamp it, but they can't. So what they did instead is they held a contest with construction companies and students from schools and artists, and they came up with, they had them submit ideas with what to do with it. And so they made it like this culture center where they're going to do like a concert. They've got concert halls and stages where they can perform and all different kinds of things that they've gone and turned these old oil tankers. They kept their outer design and just revamped the inside. And so I really want to go check this out. I would bet that Halle Bradley is probably already done something with that. Between her and her friend Ariel, who runs, they both run the Soul of Soul blog and Soju for Two, respectively. And they hang out around Mapogu a lot. And Mapo's like this really, really growing area. So this is just one more thing that they're doing in Mapo that's going to be interesting. I would bet Halle and Ariel have already been there, got pictures up, but I couldn't find them off the bat when I was trying to do this. Might go check it out. It did say something that I thought was kind of interesting. It said like 1,000 people have been there already, and it's been open since September. 1,000 people being there is like nothing when you really consider the numbers in Seoul, because there's like 1,000 people everywhere. So numbers, I don't know, man. It might be, maybe they haven't had any concerts or anything there just yet. Chicago actually came here in March this year, April time frame, and then it left. Man, you missed it. I'm sure they'll be back though, because Chicago is one of the all-time favorites. Going back to, there's a delay in between the live chat and what is being displayed, so that might be another reason to use Discord. No, probably not. It's not gonna fix that. We'll figure that out later. Another thing that they opened in that in the Mapogu area is this battleship park. So what they did is, I think they took 3 ships and they lined them up back to back, and they parked them in the harbor right there on the edge of the Han River and Mangwon. And Mangwon is another area that's part of Mapogu, where when I went there last time, I was shocked at how much they had there. A lot of different restaurants opening up, a lot of different things opening up in the area. It's near World Cup Stadium, or kind of right in that vicinity. And yeah, man, they got this. I meant to get more pictures. As a matter of fact, I do have more pictures, because I said I was going to do this. Hang on one sec. Have you guys seen Once? Still talking about musicals. Once was really good. I saw it completely in Korean. Did not have much of an idea of what was going on, but I liked it. Probably the best one I saw, though. The best thing I saw here was by far Saturday Night Fever, because it was crazy to hear Night Fever in Korean. Like, they don't say, we can show it. They say, like, what they say, we could do it. I don't even know what they say, like, in Night Fever, like in that real song. But they say Uri Hasu Isa in Korean. Pretty crazy performance. Here are a few shots of what's going on over there at the battleship park there in Mapo, Mangwon. So these are just a few pictures. This is probably on the same level as the I would expect it to be on the same level as the war memorial right there at Samgakchi Station. You can go in the ship and kind of look around, and I'm sure they got guides showing you everything. Only thing is, and this is actually free until, I believe it's free until 3 December. So if you want to check it out soon, then you can just head here and check it out. Mangwon Station, and that's like the battleship that they have there. They have like I don't know, this thing's like 19,000 tons or something like that. Might have to be, I don't know, might have to be put back in commission after a while. A lot of different shots. Man, if somebody told me to go in there and make this work, I'd be like, man, we're gonna drown, sink this thing. What does all that do? Yeah, I'm sure you figured it out after a while. Yeah, so those are the pictures from that. That's I Seoul You on Facebook. That's actually sharing that. So if you want to go check it out and check out the links, the link will be in the description. The link to the actual I Seoul You post will be in the description on Facebook. And then it'll also be, the link to the actual location will be in the description as well. I got to the description late this time, y'all, so forgive me, please. Everything started off so well, man. I came home, left work a little bit early, came back to the house, sat down, turned my computer on, and then like one of my screens wouldn't work. And I was like, don't try to fix the screen, dude. Just go on with your show, get everything planned out, and then fix it after. And then I spent an hour trying to fix my machine. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't listen to myself. Okay, so last night, Uni was watching the Mama Awards, like the MA Awards, like their Music Asia, Music, I don't know, Mid Asia. I'm not sure what Mama stands for, but I don't know. I figured if anybody's into K-pop and the music awards that are happening here in Korea and J-pop and every kind of other pop, then you can check it out. As I always say, I'm not so much a fan of K-pop as I am a fan of K-pop girl groups. Talk bad about me if you want, but they are specifically designed to catch my attention. Put it that way. Is that gonna be okay? I wouldn't touch them without consent. I wouldn't touch them with consent. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. Let me move on to the next topic. Oh, so here's a video that I thought was pretty cool and I wanted to share with you guys because I've actually been out to this city before and I really liked it because it was almost just like Seoul, but with like, I don't know, like 20% of the population, not 20, maybe I don't know, 60% of the population. And if you could find Seoul with 60% of the population, that would be awesome. You can get around, you didn't have to worry about stuff. But then I ran into this on Facebook where they're talking about how it's like the first smart city. I don't know exactly what a smart city is, but I'm sorry, it doesn't fit the same shots as doesn't fit the same description as the last one. Yeah, this will do it. This is one thing I have to figure out how to get like set up for the show, guys. I'm sorry. Like I don't know how. Like I'll have to like revamp and re-screen everything like every time. Again, that's why I'm still in Prepisode mode. So this is Songdo. Check it out. I don't know if the music's all that necessary. So Songdo is this city that they constructed out there in Incheon, and I think it's like almost on an island, and it's all man-made, and they're making it where it's like got housing close to everything. Housing's all close to the offices, close to the medics, close to the medical facilities. Everything in a residential area is in walking distance from everything else. And then they have the International Business District, which is on the west coast of the city. And it's like all set up to where you can get there really easily. Everything's set up for biking, public transportation. It's just like this great, well thought out plan of a city. And I'm sorry about the dramatic music there, but yeah, man, last time I was there was probably 2 years ago now, and it was set up like almost, it was perfect except for the fact that we had brought our car there. But they have like a little they have a little park right there, Central Park right there in the middle. Buildings, the apartments looked cool, restaurants all over the place. And oh god, who was that K-pop? We're going back to K-pop. We're gonna have to figure this out. But the K-pop band, was that Big Bang? That wasn't Big Bang on was that BTS on Ellen? I think that was BTS on Ellen. And I saw a lot of people on social media like, oh my, how the tables have turned. And I was like, what's that mean? Like, but I guess now it used to always be an American pop group visiting Korea, talking to Korean pop show or talk show hosts and getting translations from somebody to understand their English. Now it's finally a K-pop group going to the US and getting or talking and them having to translate their language to English. I guess that was the take. I'm not really terribly sure. Any of you guys like K-pop? I don't dislike K-pop, man. I mean, it's okay, but everything seems manufactured with K-pop. Like all the groups together, like they seem like they cheated, like they cut the puzzle pieces together. And this isn't just with K-pop. I mean, this is with all like a lot of modern groups nowadays, where they seem like they just kind of cut like the pieces and made the puzzle pieces fit together. And if you didn't have this, but you had the look and you had, I don't know, some decent amount of talent, and you can do some decent dance skills or some decent grasp of choreography, then they just put you in there and they taught you the drums or they taught you XYZ. It just all seems so manufactured. It doesn't seem like a group that formed out of nowhere or that formed out of natural relationships and things like that. So when you see them interact with each other, they're always like assholes to each other. Yeah, it was BTS. They're always like jerks to each other, and not always, but in a lot of cases. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of I'm just not a huge fan of it. Although I will say there are some groups that I like, because I used to love that I used to love EXO, I think, because they had a couple of songs that were pretty tight. And then I like, is it Day 6? I like Day 6. And that's kind of like, that's it. I see songs that have like 95, I think, was it Twice? Their new song has like 95 million views on it or something like that. And okay. And 95 million views on it. And I was like, I should check this out. People must really like it. I got ready to click on it and I was like, I pass. Like, I don't even want to hear it. It's almost all the same. When K-pop first came on the scene, like back, the first time I noticed it was with like real K-pop, like where they had those huge girl groups, was Seoulweaver. And they had like that GGG song and Oppa song and stuff like that. And that's when I was like, that's when I could like feel it. But now it's kind of like, I think another thing I think about K-pop is I think like Korean ballads get overshadowed by K-pop. Like real talent gets kind of like thrown to the wayside because they aren't fitting the K-pop genre and stuff like that. Yeah, looks like Mattel made these groups. Put them together, man. Shined them up. Although there always seems to be a couple of different, like there always seems to be one person in the group that's like a natural entertainer, and everybody else is just, they look the part and they've been taught, maybe not one, like maybe 2 or 3 in like the groups with like 9 girls and stuff like that. In Japan, there was this group called like AV40 or something like that. It had like 40 members. At what point does a group become a choir? Not sure. But yeah, in any case, man, back to Songdo. Nice city. You should definitely, if you have time to head out there, should definitely check it out. If I could find a job in Songdo and move out there and live out there and stay here in Korea and work, I think I'd do it. Because it was enough going on out there. Like there's like a huge that's not actually impossible. I should probably look into that. There was like there's a lot going on out there, and they're just the idea of building the city is really I don't know. It's when they build cities, when they plan cities out here in Korea, they're real nice, especially if it's a smart city. They're You can almost tell the difference. It's like a progression in the way Korea designs cities over the years. Like if you're in northern Seoul, like if you're in a Kongbuk area, and you look around and look at how things are designed, it looks like an old city. Like it looks like they just put stuff wherever they can find it. Like it's like, I mean, the roads are windy. You can be driving down a road, make a U-turn, and just be on a different road. They just put stuff where it fit, and that's obvious. When you get down to Gangnam, it's a little better. It's a little bit more planned out. You can tell there's like actual city blocks out there and stuff like that. Maybe not city blocks, but the arrangement makes a little bit more sense in Gangnam. When you get out to like Ilsan, it's nice, man. It looks like you can actually drive down the city and you can see like the straight square, like just the straight square blocks that they put together because they just built the street straight down. You can like make left turns and stuff like that in Ilsan, versus the spaghetti streets that I like to talk about here in Seoul. And then finally, when you get out to Songno, you're in a city that is just completely designed for convenience for the people that are living in there, and with the convenience of people that live in there in mind. And with like 60% of the people, man, it's like it's designed. It's got the infrastructure of Seoul with 60% of the population. If any of you guys know how to get a job out that way, let me know. So yeah, that's all I got. I don't think I have anything else. I don't. There's events, man. We were looking for events going on this weekend. Uni found a few things, man. She found out that I think today or tomorrow there's like a line, a subway line, or I'm sorry, a train line that opens up that goes straight to the eastern coast. I really should have that figured out. And like it's really a big deal because you couldn't just get there before. It's like you had to put everything in. Yeah, man, it sounds nice, man. I don't know if would I live there though? Yeah, well, I would live in Ilsan. In 2006, Ilsan was written up in like some English magazine as one of the top 10 dynamic cities to live in the world. And I was like, I was in Ilsan when I got that magazine and looked around and I was like, I mean, nice, yes. They got Lake Park out there and stuff like that. But top 10 dynamic cities in the world? That's a bit of a stretch. Well, maybe not. Maybe I don't know what dynamic means. It was nice though. In fact, it's probably the nicest city I've lived in, or the nicest city I've worked in, because it's, even though Seoul is stepping up its game, I was in Ilsan back in 2006, right after I got out the army, and it was nice back then. Like you had all the apartment setups that we have right now with waterfalls in the apartment and stuff like that. They had that way back then. Ilsan and Paju, but those locations are kind of north, so particularly Paju. So like the land was real cheap because nobody wanted to move up there. Oh, so in addition to what we have going on, or in addition to what Uni was saying about that new train line that opens up, it goes straight out to like the East Sea or the east coast of the country. So straight out to the east coast of the Korean Peninsula. You can't really, up until now, you couldn't really just get straight there. You had to take roundabout ways to get there. And I guess they're doing this because of the Olympics. But what it means is you can get a train in an hour, be on the East Coast, where it would have taken you 3 hours before. So you can get like seafood and stuff like that. Go out there and really, really enjoy being on the beach and make it like a day. Like what was once a 2-day trip, or what had to be done in a couple of days, can now be done in 1 day. Which really kills stuff, man. I didn't realize this before, but like putting out KTX trains and making it really easy to get from one side of Korea to the other actually makes people still live in Seoul and then commute to wherever they're going, because it only takes an hour to get there now. So they're trying to like decentralize Seoul and like get people out of the city and get people in these other cities that they're building up for them and making really nice, like Songdo. And they can't get people to leave Seoul alone, because it's so easy to just get on a train and travel to wherever they're trying to move them to. So that's, I don't know, Seoul's gonna still continue to grow no matter what, because people can't. Even I had the opportunity to move out of here for a promotion potential, and I turned it down because I don't want to leave. So that's all I got, guys. We are going to be speaking of the one last thing before I go. Speaking of the Pyeongchang Olympics, if you're in the Seoulweaver's Facebook group, most of you in chat are. All of you in chat are. We're going to be putting the link to where you can buy the tickets to Olympic events if you're going to be here for Pyeongchang 2018. And if you want to like go take in a hockey game or something like that, Shinar, Josh, man, hit me up. Let's go watch a hockey game. Anything but curling. I don't know. I can't watch curling. There's probably some other sports that anything is probably a little strong. There's probably some other sports that I probably can't watch either. But I don't know. It's the Olympics, man. I'll probably even watch curling. I don't care. That's all I got, guys. I'm gonna jump up out of here. I will be back next week with another episode of the Seoulweaver Show. Who knows what we'll be talking about then. I'm sure it'll be something on North Korea. Open to suggestions on the podcast in the topic, because I am just kind of winging it until I get things lined up with the actual interviews. That's coming, because people are saying that they want to do them, so that's gonna be cool. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Appreciate your time. Went a little long today, but kind of made up for last week. I'll see you next week in the show. You guys have a good one. Later. Awkward pause before we change to the other screen. I don't even remember where it is. Yeah, right here. Let's do it here. Have a good one.